And we are live. Thanks for hanging with us, mystery and thriller fans. We were having technical troubles, but we're all set now, and we are so excited to be with you today as we welcome the extraordinary award-winning former police captain Isabella Maldonado, here to give us spill the tea on her brand new book, A Different Dawn. Isabella, welcome to Mystery and Thriller Mavens and Murder by the Book. Tell us about A Different Dawn.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be able to, this is, big excitement here, bringing out A Different Dawn, #2 in the Nina Guerrera FBI series. So for everyone who enjoys like an edge of your seat thriller, with an FBI agent hunting a serial killer, this is your thing.
Yay! Well, I'm one of those people, Isabella. I thoroughly loved The Cipher, and I am devouring A Different Dawn. So I can't wait to get into every single detail of it because I have so many questions, and I know all of our audience does as well. But first, I just want to welcome everybody. Welcome everyone who's watching on Facebook, everyone who's watching on YouTube, everyone who's watching on my channels, Murder's channels. We're so happy to have you. If you've been here before, you know how this works. And if you're new, welcome. We're so happy to have you. Here's how it works. Every Monday for Mystery Monday, because Mondays can be murder, I give you my hand-picked featured authors, and you get to ask them anything. So you can ask Isabella about her writing process, about A Different Dawn, about The Cipher, about her career as a crime fighter and her current life as a crime writer, the FBI Academy at Quantico, what it was like to be the captain, the first Latina captain in her police department. Oh my goodness, my mind is exploding with so many questions. So just get them going in the comments, and I will get them right over to Isabella. Isabella, I'm going to kick us off. Oh, actually, sorry, I want to get to this one first. Bonnie says, I loved The Cipher, and I'm waiting for A Different Dawn to show up on my Kindle on release day. Yay! You guys, this book isn't even out yet. It's out tomorrow. We get the inside scoop the night before pub release, only here on Mystery and Thriller Mavens. It's so exciting. And you can pre-order the book on your Kindle like Bonnie here. Or if you like paper books, if you're an old-fashioned reader like me, you can pre-order it from Murder by the Book. And it'll go out to you tomorrow. So I'm popping the link in the comments if you want to order paper books. Bonnie, I loved The Cipher too. So you're gonna, and I was lucky enough to get an advanced copy of A Different Dawn, and you're gonna love it because everything we loved about The Cipher, Nina Guerrera, her sass, her fierce, her strength, her wit, her survival. She is back and better than ever here in A Different Dawn. And back and better than ever. Now, Isabella, one of the things, and Bonnie, tell me what you think too. One of the things that was most unsettling to me about The Cipher was when the book unexpectedly switched to the bad guy's POV. You scared me, Isabella. You scared me good. Oh my God, I couldn't read it at night because I was so scared. Being in his head was so disturbing, especially knowing that you had spent your career as a crime fighter. Again, police captain, first Latina to retain that rank in your police department. Congratulations, a graduate of the FBI Academy. So we know that bad guys good. What was it like to write him? And what is it like to write this scary dude?
Yeah, I love to give a peek into the bad guy's mind. Because not only have I had to deal with bad guys in real life, but and bad gals, but also studied them too, as part of training to go through. And especially when I went to the FBI National Academy, when I was there in Quantico, some of the training that I received was from the FBI profilers. They did talk about, they went through some of the cases. And honestly, those were some of the most chilling accounts you could possibly imagine, because we're in law enforcement And so they showed us the crime scene photos, and they showed us interviews, like actual snippets and clips from interviews they had with serial killers, and explained the psychology behind it, the mindset behind it. And I thought, I wanted to take the reader into that world a little bit, to understand that there are people in the world who are warped in this way and twisted in this way, and kind of how they think. And I understand, I get it. I too wanted to take a shower right after I got out of the class. And if I could have washed my brain, I would have done that. But anyway, it definitely gives you the creeps. But I feel like I owe it to my characters, especially, in this series, they're FBI agents, to really explain kind of how hard it is. It's a really tough job that they do, because, and I do emphasize this in both books, about part of what an FBI profiler does is that they have to put themselves they have to mentally put themselves in the mind of both the killer and the victim, to understand how the crime took place, to understand better how to catch the perpetrator. And each of those things is incredibly disturbing and difficult to do, and will totally creep you out. And so for those reasons, I wanted to show that part. And I hope that I did a good job of explaining, because just having a mustache twirling baddie off stage, yes, is really not doing, Dick Dastardly is really not doing the readers any favors, as far as really understanding what goes into, what drives people who commit such heinous acts.
Oh my God, Isabella, I'm loving this conversation already, because this is so fascinating. What I love about the fact that you were a crime fighter and now you're a crime writer is that we as readers can trust that everything you're telling us is accurate, is correct, and from personal experience. So I love knowing that. I love that extra level of accountability on the page. Audience, tell me how you feel about this. I mean, as I was reading the cipher, and as I'm now reading A Different Dawn, seeing Nina, just even the technology that they have at the FBI, wondering what an FBI van is like, wondering what it's like, the profiler. We've got, because we're looking at Nina's team, who's now beloved to us, of course. Knowing that all these details are correct is such an extra level of fascination. So thank you for that. I want to make sure that I'm getting to all of the comments. Andrea, welcome back, top community member there. She says, I can't wait. Sounds like maybe I should read it. Andrea, there ain't no maybe here, girl. You got to get your order on. I just put it in the comments. It's so good. Oh my God, Isabella is so talented. I just want to remind everybody that the cipher is in the process of being adapted to a Netflix series by none other than J-Lo, Jenny from the Block herself. She's producing and starring in it, and I know I can't wait, and you can't either. So get reading. Melissa saying, hi, Isabella and Sara. How fascinating. Melissa, great to have you. Welcome. I love the profile picture of your sweet little greyhound there. Hi, puppy. I'm a dog fanatic, so I love that profile picture. Molly is saying, hi, hello, Molly, welcome, great to have you. Bonnie is saying, after having a creepy day at class or work, how do you think about your life? Oh my God, Bonnie, I was wondering that too when Isabella said she wanted to wash her brain.
Yeah. Some of that stuff really does stay with you. And I mean, some of those images, the old expression that you can't unsee it, it's true. You really can't. Both the stuff that I saw from the real case studies, and also other times throughout, the regular part of my career, when I would run across dead bodies and had to deal with situations, cases, and things like that. Some of them were murders, some of them not. But in that case, it's even more so. And that's when I feel like, again, I owe it to the reader to share my experience and to really pull in all five senses, because there are smells, there are sounds, there are sights, there is sometimes you even can get like a taste in your mouth from the incredible smell that's all around you. It permeates. And so I feel like it's important to, to show all of that too. And you're right, and your readers are very astute to notice that when you come home after a day like that, it is very hard to unwind. It's important that, well, first of all, you have to decontaminate everything. A lot of detectives that that I know, and especially when I was the commander of special investigations and forensics, one of the units that worked under me was the CSI unit. And so they had a whole protocol. Those guys, the crime scene techs, they would come home, they would take off all their clothes in the garage, and then they would go into the mudroom, and everything would go straight into the washing machine, and they'd put it on this, sanitary wash, steam, whatever cycle they had, but they would, take off all that stuff. They wouldn't take it into the house, and and that's even after they took off, they would wear like a Tyvek suit or whatever on top of their clothes, and that would come off at, earlier, and that would go straight into a hazmat disposal thing. But then even coming home, they would put it straight into the wash just because of the smell. Even if those clothes hadn't gotten any kind of biohazardous waste on them, because that was the Tyvek suit, and they would get rid of that earlier before they even came home, but just the smell. And then they would go straight into the shower, because it would be in their hair, it would cling to their clothes and everything, so there is like a sort of a decontamination process. And then, you go ahead and you try to just connect with your family as best you can. And I think that that is part of the special challenge. It's a calling to be able to do that kind of work. It's not for everybody, but I am so grateful. All of the men and women that I worked with, they were outstanding and self-sacrificing and willing to do what needed to be done so that predators like this would not be able to continue to do whatever it is they wanted to do out in the community.
Oh, Isabella, thank you for your service and the service of everyone who serves. You're so amazing. I think I just want to understand what is the smell? Is it the smell of decomposing muscle? Is it the smell of a dead body, or are we talking about gun smoke? What kind of smells are we talking about?
I don't know how grisly you want to get, but honestly, it varies from scene to scene. If it's something that is very fresh and there's a great deal of blood, then it's the smell of blood that has its own smell. Usually it's kind of metallic because of all the iron in the blood, but there's other, sort of, it's a definite, once you smell it, you never forget it. Other times, if it's something more along the lines of decomposing, if it's been there for weeks, yeah, that's the kind of smell that gets into your hair and into your, like, it seems like it gets stuck up in your nose, it almost feels like, and it's really hard to get it out. And then there are different smells altogether if it's a body that's been in the water and you take it out of the water, and that's a totally different smell. It almost, it definitely depends on, or if it's a burned body, that's a different smell altogether. It's like a char smell. So it really does. It very much depends on what the circumstances are.
This is fascinating, Isabella. This is absolutely fascinating. Melissa is saying, like Isabella said, this must be a calling. Thank you, she says, for doing this for society. I could not have said it better myself. Melissa, thank you. Isabella, thank you. Bonnie would like to know, is it true? And I was wondering this too. Is it true that Vicks under the nose helps keep the smell away? I've read that people working in the ME's office, the medical examiner's office, do that. Is that true, and does it work?
Yeah, it does work. It definitely does help. Back in the old days, like, I remember when I first came on as a rookie officer, and, the first couple times I would run across, there'd be a dead body, and, you'd see the homicide detectives would come out and the crime scene guys would come out. It was men back then. I was one of the few women on the department, so I'm saying guys for that reason. But back in those days, when I first came on in the 80s, I'm really dating myself with this, but it was the late 80s. But anyway, they would chomp on a cigar Like they'd get the cheapest, smelliest, nastiest cigar you can possibly imagine, and they would light it up and they'd have the stogie in their mouth. But nowadays, we don't do that. First of all, we're not allowed to smoke. Second of all, it would contaminate the crime scene. Third of all, it's just, it just isn't done. So they went to the Vicks under the nose thing is what a lot of them do use. It's kind of cool that people know that. That's pretty neat. I'm impressed.
So my sister's a massage therapist, so a very different kind of lifestyle, but she had to work on cadavers to learn anatomy in order to be able to do massage. And when she was in the cadaver lab, she also did the Vicks. So I love that we all kind of know this.
Yeah.
Isabella, this is such a valuable opportunity to get a hashtag BTS behind the scenes look at life. Questions are just pouring in, and I am so excited to see all of them. Let's go over to Andres. Ooh, I was wondering this too. Is Nina, so our beloved hero, Nina Guerrera, the warrior girl, is she based on someone that you know?
No, she's not based on anyone that I know. I kind of was inspired to tell her story because there were so many victims of trauma that I dealt with and ran across in my career. And sometimes it would be a situation where I could see over time, I could see how it just devastated them and they were never able to get past it or through it or anything like that. Other times I was shocked and stunned to see how they overcame their trauma and turned it into something really inspirational, and it sort of gave them a cause, and where they were able to decide that they wanted to direct their life to make some meaning out of what happened. Because the truth of the matter is that violence in general is pretty much senseless. And so to try to make sense of it, some of these victims would go on to do amazing things. They would become social workers, or they would work, to help other kids, once they got to be adults and things like that. And it was just very inspirational. And one of the things, I studied just enough psychology to be dangerous myself. And but one of the things that I actually, have Wade talk about this in the cipher is about how, we don't talk enough about resilience. And resilience really is an amazing thing. And it's when I was able to witness it and see it, it was so inspirational to me that I wanted a character who embodied the resilience that I had seen.
I love that, and I love Wayne, the profiler, who talked about that, because it's so true. I think we've all known people or seen stories, and some people survive and thrive, and some people don't. And there's a lot of factors for all of those reasons. Nina is so inspirational to so many of us, and that's what really motivates her, is that she was, she was found in a dumpster. She was a so-called dumpster baby, and she spent her entire life in the foster care system and group homes, and she is out there to protect vulnerable young girls like her, and we're just cheering for her every step of the way. Another thing that I really love is seeing Nina as a Latina navigate her way in this traditionally white male world of law enforcement, which you certainly have experience from. And I love how you weave in her Latina culture. So the smell of cumin in her cooking, the sauces, and all of the delicious foods that her neighbor, who's a foster mom, makes and brings her and caretakes for her. And I love how you weave that in and the other cultural references that you do. What was that like for you, being the first Latina to attain the rank of captain, and now writing about a kick-ass Latina woman and J-Lo adapting your screenplay? Let's talk about that.
Yeah, that aspect of it is funny. First of all, I have to tell you that my agent, who is in Manhattan, she always tells me that she never reads one of the manuscripts when it first comes to her. She's always like, she's like, I have to get a margarita and some chips and salsa. You can imagine, so she loves it. It's like, it makes her really happy, and at first, I mean, this is the second series I've written featuring a Latina lead character. The first one is a homicide detective, and totally different thing, but both of them feature a Latina. And when I wrote the first series, I was concerned that people might not embrace the Latina character, because at first I was told that might be an issue a long time ago, back in 2015, when I was first trying to, to get some attention on that and everything. I was not given a lot of encouragement. And then I just went ahead and stuck to my guns, and I thought, you know what, people would love to, hopefully they would find this sort of thing interesting, and to see other cultures. And one of the ways that we enjoy other cultures is through food and celebrations, but in particular food. I think food is like the great equalizer. And as far as the United States goes, unless you're 100% Native American, everybody has some immigrant somewhere, in an immigrant connection in their family somewhere. And so there's that experience of, different ethnicities. And I mean, I love this country and how there's so many different ethnicities and stuff. And it's like, let's celebrate what we have. But it's just surprising how many people have written to me, and they love it and they respond to it. And I have heard from many of them, they get hungry when they read my books, which is funny, because I mean, they're really not written like a cozy, there's no recipes in the books. It's not set in a bakery or something like that. It's totally the opposite of that. But I feel like it's a way for people to connect, and people do seem to respond to it. And as far as J-Lo goes, I have to say, I mean, I am so amazed and blessed. And just so you know, it's not going to be a series. It's a feature film. So she's going to do a feature film. But when it's funny, because I've loved her for a long time. Never had any idea that this was going to happen. And when I found out that her production company, was interested. And then I think the most surreal moment was when I was told that she was reading the book. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that she's reading my book. Because a couple of years ago, I think it was in 2019, my husband and I went to Las Vegas, and we actually watched her on stage. I actually went to her show. So I was sitting in the audience watching her. I had no idea, because the book didn't come out till 2020. I mean, I had no clue, and shortly after the book came out, she wanted to star in it. Netflix was all on board and everything like that. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I've gone from, like, I was in the audience watching her perform, to now she's going to be playing the lead character for Netflix in a movie. It just doesn't get any better than that. I don't know how to explain it. She's such a phenomenon. She's so incredibly talented and gorgeous and everything else. But it's incredible. It's an amazing feeling.
Amazing indeed. Dream come true. Oh my God. From in the audience at a J-Lo concert to J-Lo adapting, producing, starring in your book, Isabella. Oh my God. This is just a dream come true. This is so exciting.
It is.
Okay, let's get over to the comments. So 23 years ago, I lived in Australia, and I became dear friends with the family who lived next door. And my little Australian sister, my adopted little Australian sister, Jess Clavey, is joining us today, all the way live from Brisbane. Jess, welcome. So we read the cipher for our International Book Club when it came out. And Jess, welcome. I'm going to try to do this in an Australian accent. She said, Nina is a badass. No, I'm not going to do that. Forget it. She said, you must have had so much more. You must have so much more that you wanted to include in the books. What did you edit out of the first book, and have you included it in the second? Jess, brilliant question as always. I love you. I miss you. Isabella, give us the skinny.
Yeah, that is true, because without any editors involved, the book could be 500,000 words, but it's ridiculous. So it is true that always stuff has to be cut out of the book. And some of the things in the cipher, I probably had a little more cat and mouse going on, probably, would have been a little bit longer. I had more ideas about some of the puzzles to be solved and the codes and the riddles, and some of the Scoobies. I had more ideas and stuff about the Scoobies and what they were going to be up to. I'm sorry for anybody who hasn't read the cipher. You don't know what I mean by that, but hopefully you'll read it and you'll understand. But I had a lot more going on with the Scoobies, but unfortunately that had to go. But as far as in book 2, it's a totally different vibe. So there isn't that element. But what I was able to do in book 2, and I can't say too much and give all kinds of spoilers away, but it's kind of like I wanted another very personal kind of big reveal about Nina, because it's so disturbing to think about, everything that happened to her. And I wanted another situation, and I kind of set it so that it takes place several months after the first book. So you're figuring that she's going along and working on cases and beginning to gel with her team and everything. And I just, want the reader to sort of understand that that's been going on in the background. And then book 2 picks up several months later, where another big significant case occurs. And then I tell the story of that one. And it's just really, I have to say, when I was coming up with the plot for A Different Dawn, my computer keeps going off. That's why my face suddenly gets dark. When I was coming up with a plot for A Different Dawn, I have to say, when the idea hit me of how I wanted to tell the story, I did say to myself, I haven't heard of anyone else doing this before. This is different. This is very cool. So yeah.
This whole series is very different, very cool. Yeah. Jess, thanks for joining us from Brisbane, Australia. I love it.
Yes.
Okay, let's get, Darla is saying, I'm just being introduced to Isabella's books. The books sound fascinating, just up my alley. Can't wait to start purchasing. Nina sounds intriguing. Darla, you're going to love these books. I'm telling you, you're going to love these books. And I'm putting the link right here in the comments where you can grab your copy, pre-order it tonight. So Murder by the Book, the good folks at Murder by the Book can send it to you tomorrow, so you can support independent bookstores, so that when we come out of this pandemic, we have bookstores to support and aisles to browse and books to open and smell. Does anyone else like to smell books? I do. So, yeah. The link is in the comments. Pre-order A Different Dawn. They'll send it to you tomorrow, and you're going to want the cipher too, because it's so dang good. And you're going to want to know what these Scoobies are, and you're probably one of them, because I am, although I wouldn't annoy law enforcement like that. But solve the puzzles, I couldn't. I literally was like, I could not be a crime solver because I don't know what's happening. Okay, I want to make sure I didn't miss anybody's comments. I'm just scrolling through right here. Okay, Melissa would like to know, ooh, this is good. Is there any ritual that Isabella does to have transferred from her work day to join her family? Isabella, now you're a writer, you're a crime writer, you're hanging out in yoga pants instead of your uniform. But back in the days of the uniforms, did you have a ritual? Did you take it off and shower and that was the end of your day? Did you say something, sing something? How'd you do that?
It's kind of funny. It's another thing that's it's evolved over time. Again, when I first joined the force, it was when I would, at the end of the shift, I would come into the locker room, and you take everything off and you put it away in your locker. You take off the gun belt and the vest, and it's just like, as you take all this stuff off, that was kind of always the ritual. And then you go into, the other thing too is, when you come in, you log off of your your MDT, which is your mobile data terminal. There we go. In your car, and you come in and you turn in your reports, and the sergeant is going through your reports and everything. Meanwhile, you are taking off all of your stuff, your equipment, and the uniform shirt. You don't drive home in your uniform, like, ever. You know, you drive home in your undershirt and your you'd wear your like police pants and your boots and your undershirt. You would have your gun with you, but that would be like on the seat next to you in the gun belt or whatever. So it's because you're in your, it's called POV is the term, personally owned vehicle. So you don't, the reason you don't drive home in your uniform is you don't want anybody to see you in your personally owned vehicle in uniform, because that way they know that you're a cop. And especially early on, I hardly made any money, so I was living in an apartment, sharing it with a roommate and all that stuff. I didn't want everybody else, and it wasn't an apartment in the it was not in a desirable part of town. So I did not want people knowing that I was in law enforcement, because a lot of them were on the other side of the law, and they would not be pleased about that. So it's kind of like you almost like you had to hide it. It's almost like you were acting like you were undercover or something. And I did a lot of shift work. So sometimes I'd get off work at 1 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes I'd get off work at 7 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes I'd get off work at 4 in the afternoon. It was rotating shifts. I mean, it was really crazy. So it's you know, different depending on that situation, but just taking off the stuff, and then also being with the other officers in the room, because we'd all be together turning in our paperwork, and the sergeant would be going through the paperwork, and then he would ask you questions. Again, I say he because back then it was all men. And, you know, so he would ask you questions, you know, if there was a problem with your report, you know, what happened here? No, give me more information about that. Okay, why did you do this? Nope, tomorrow you got to go back out and do more of, you know, work on this some more, whatever, you know. But in the meantime, you'd be decompressing, and there was a lot of sort of good-natured ribbing and teasing, and the dark humor and everything else that would go on in the squad room at the end of the shift, and that would definitely happen, and that kind of helped to get you into a different frame of mind before you went home.
This is fascinating. Such a fascinating glimpse into your police life, into your former life, much like Nina Guerrera, living in a neighborhood that isn't the most upscale, safest. She doesn't want people to know where she lives for the obvious reason. You know, she's out there busting the bad guys. Don't want the bad guys to know where she lives. Okay, let me make sure I didn't miss anything. Okay, Bonnie would like to know, will you be involved at all during the filming with J-Lo?
Well, I don't know about the filming, but I do have an executive producer credit on there, so I am officially executive producer. Also, I am an official consultant, and they have already hired the screenwriters. And a matter of fact, the screenwriters they have reached out and called me. We've had a couple of video calls already where they're, you know, describing what they're doing with the story, and they're asking me questions about, you know, these kind of questions, the same kind of smart questions that all of your viewers are asking about, you know, how would this work, and what if we had her do that, and, you know, is that possible, and this kind of thing. And so I would, you know, give them answers and stuff. So yeah, that has already occurred. As far as going on set, that's not, I have no idea. I mean, that's not in the cards anywhere, but I do get, I think, I do get to go to the premiere. And so I do get a +1. So I told my husband he has to be like really nice to me.
Tell him he has to be really nice to you, or Sara DiVello selflessly offers a foot massage. I mean, you like chocolates, Isabella? I'm a yoga teacher. We're getting hearts up. I'm a yoga teacher. Perhaps you'd like a private yoga session or 20.
There you go. There you go. Absolutely.
Anything for my new best friend, Isabella.
That's
Melissa Watson is saying she's an Australian too. What? We have 2 Australians in the house. What are the chances? Actually,
no. The Aussies have been huge. It's really been cool. Starting with the Cypher, the Australians and the UK have been huge markets for the Cypher, and it's actually kind of, Nina Guerrera is taking the world by storm. As of my last count, I think the Cypher is being translated to now, I think we're up to 16 different languages. And so countries all over the world are translating, and so the word, I mean, Nina's taken the world by storm. So I am actually not surprised to find out there's Aussies out there. Yes, and a
Yay.
few Kiwis, some Kiwis too.
Yay, my
Love them.
Aussies. My
Yes.
Aussies are in the house, and some other Aussies
Yes.
in the house. Australians are truly the best. I love Australia so much. I can't wait to go back. So I just want to remind everybody that this is, so I present you featured authors every Monday nights for hashtag Mystery Mondays, because Mondays can be murder, wink. But the place where we continue the conversation is my private Facebook group, which is Mystery and Thriller Mavens. And I am currently giving away 5 copies of A Different Dawn. So
Wow.
if you want to win a copy of A Different Dawn, because we're all about women supporting women here, authors supporting authors, join my Facebook group. I just put the link in the comments. It is free and open to all. You just have to love mysteries and love books. Okay, I'm just making sure I didn't miss anybody's questions. I'm scrolling. Okay, Darla would like to know what a mind Isabella would be so much fun to hang with. I know. Who wants to go hang with Isabella right now? She likes yoga. She wears yoga pants. She's got all this cool stuff she knows. She's the author of Nina. She hangs with her new best friend J-Lo when she's not hanging with us, asking our quote unquote smart questions. Ooh, good question here. Bonnie, is there an author that has been an inspiration to you, Isabella? What do you read when you're not writing? Great question, Bonnie. Isabella, let's spill the tea.
Okay, let's see. I do both. I read a lot of nonfiction, and I do also read fiction. And there have been several authors that have been inspirations to me. One of whom I imagine is someone that most of your readers, or I'm sorry, viewers will know, and that is J.A. Jantz. She is truly incredible and inspirational. I met her at a conference back in 2017. And she has become a mentor to me. She has been incredibly gracious. She's now written, I think, more than 75 books, many New York Times bestsellers, like, I don't know, 4 or 5 different series. She's incredible. She is just always willing to answer questions. We don't talk about actually, like how to write. It's not that kind of mentorship. It's more like how to be an author and how to kind of survive in the business, because that is truly, she is totally self-made and someone who is a totally bootstraps kind of person like I am. Ooh. And who just came up, did not have an easy early life and just became so incredibly successful and has sold millions of books worldwide and everything else. And so it really has been amazing, starting out at the very beginning before, when I was just getting started, to have someone of that stature to take an interest in me and be willing to share her wisdom has been incredibly, it's been wonderful.
So, and one more time, what was her name?
J.A. Jantz.
J.A. Jantz. Okay, perfect. I'm putting it in the comments.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. I love women supporting women, and authors supporting authors is where it's at. Yeah. Sherry is saying, hi, ladies. Hey, Sherry, great to have you. Welcome. We're so happy to have you here. Oh my gosh. Okay. Debbie is saying, I love J.A.
Yeah, I told you.
Thank you for correcting me. I spelled it with a J-A. I misspelled it. So J.A. Jantz. Thank you for that, Debbie. That's really helpful. Yeah. Sherry would like to know, oh my God, that's a great question, especially for Isabella. Have you ever had any surprises happen at a book signing?
Nothing bad. No, nothing like that. I mean, I've heard other authors have talked about, things that, people that, sort of have accosted them or become like stalkery or something. I've never had anything bad like that happen. If that's what they were asking, I don't know. Maybe it's because they know that that I have a law enforcement background. I don't know. Maybe that's why. But no, I have not had anything. I've only had very pleasant surprises where people have come up to me and they've told me how much their books my books have meant to them and how much they've identified with my characters and all that sort of thing. So just the most amazing pleasant surprises have been the only thing that's happened. Oh, and by the way, just so everybody knows, I just on August 1st, so just last week, I submitted the first draft of book 3 in the Nina Guerrera series. It's called The Falcon, and it's actually available for pre-order already. So yes, so there's another one coming, and that'll be out in next July. So
congratulations.
anybody gets hooked.
Oh
yes.
my God, so exciting. Yay.
Yeah.
The Nina stories just keep coming, and we are here for it. Melissa's saying about your how you were able to, the rituals you underwent to transition from work to home. It sounds like a lot of mental control. Absolutely fascinating. Sherry saying your story is very interesting to listen to. Thank you so much for your service. Sherry beautifully said. So this is so exciting to have a new book coming out. Absolutely amazing. Ooh, Jess would like to know, did you write this book series with it being in the back of your mind that it would be turned into a film and series? Yeah, now that you know that J-Lo's adapted in that first one, are you picturing the scenes in your head as you write the next ones, Isabella?
Actually, no. I really but the thing is, I'm a very visual person, and so I just think in terms of visuals. And here's kind of a fun secret. My husband is really, he's the one, he's big into TV and movies and stuff like that. He's one of those guys that just like, he loves all the celebrity stuff. And so what he helps me do in the very beginning, when I'm first trying to get my mind around my characters, my husband will help me dreamcast. And so, yes, so he will, like, I'll tell him, I'm like, for Nina Guerrera, I say, I need someone, I'm trying to, get a mental picture of someone who's, she's like, at the time, 27 years old, she's only 5 feet tall, she has really close cropped hair, she's, Latina, whatever, this is kind of her situation. Or like Wade, he's an older guy, he's in his 50s, and he's kind of like, he's very, serious, and he's had the weight of the world is on his shoulders, he's seen it all, seen too much, and all this kind of thing. So I'll describe these kind of characters, and my husband is awesome at, he will come up with all kinds of actors, and he'll show me screenshots and stuff of these different actors, and then it's like this amazing synergy takes place when I'm like, that's it, that's him, that's Wade, and I will get him, and I'll kind of get his screenshot up near my computer where I'm writing, so I can kind of channel him a little bit better with a visual image. And it is very helpful to do that. And that's like the closest thing I do to, I don't necessarily think this would make a good movie, but I do think about, visually watching my characters do this, or watching a fight scene. Oh my gosh, I have to really mentally get into a fight scene to really make sure that I can relate to how it would feel. And I do try to be realistic. I am a woman who has had to fight with males to put them under arrest, and I am not going to lie and tell you it's like, you just do a couple of quick moves and they're under control. No, it is really hard. Women just generally do not have the same amount of upper body strength. All of our strength is in our hip flexors, thighs, and abs, and that is, what you use to your advantage as best you can. There are other, techniques and things, and so I have had I have a lot of male fans, and a lot of them say that one of the things they like is that I don't have 110-pound, 5-foot tall woman who just kicks everybody's ass and just leaves a room full of men bleeding on the floor, and then dusts off her hands and walks away. I mean, it's ridiculous, it is really hard to fight a man. It's just, and certainly if you don't have any weapons or any control techniques or training and stuff like that, it's really a challenge. And so I want to also communicate that with what I write, is to show how incredibly hard it is when you're confronted with someone who has just overwhelming strength and physical strength. And in the case of the Cypher, and actually in the case of the villain in A Different Dawn, also really smart and shrewd and clever, diabolically so. And the other thing that a lot of people don't think about is that the bad guys, if you want to put it that way, they don't have any controls on them. They use whatever force they want to use. When you're in the law enforcement community, you have certain parameters that you are supposed to follow, and there are a lot of restrictions, you know, so they don't have any restrictions. They just do whatever they want to do. And, you know, so that also, it makes it a real uphill battle, and it's a real challenge. And I like to show that too.
Yes, thank you for showing that and for that fascinating behind the scenes glimpse into reality, because everything you're saying is so true. I just never really thought about it before. This is absolutely, absolutely fascinating. Sherry is saying this is so awesome. Yes, Sherry,
Good.
Awesome. She said you need to give a signed book to J-Lo. I agree.
Oh, good idea. Thank you. My gosh, I didn't even think about it. I will.
And her half of the BFF bracelet that you get made for the two.
Yes, that's right. What am I? Oh, yes, of course. That's right. Gotcha.
Yeah, exactly. It should be in Spanish, though. You know, best friends on Espanol. That would be really.
That's right.
Just says we're waiting for the U.S. to catch up because it's already 10th here and we can't get it yet. Isabella, you're already 10th in Australia and they can't even get the book. Amazing. Jess, thanks for letting us know what's going on in the land down under. Melissa, our second Aussie, seconding that with hands up and collapsing.
Yeah, they're coming through. They're coming through for me. They're awesome.
Great idea with the signed book. She is hands up. She says, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I already got that question. Let me see. I'm making sure I didn't miss anything. Okay. Leslie says, hello from Canada. She says, I'm here, but I'm late. We're truly an international audience. We got Australia. Yeah. We got the US. We got Canada. She says, I love listening to Isabella. Darla says, I love listening to Isabella. I would listen to her forever. I totally agree. This is a fabulous, fascinating interview. Thank you. Oh, great question from Melissa. How did Isabella stay fit enough to fight off these big men? Were you just pummeling a big bag or what?
No, actually, I mean, when I was on the department, I used to do a lot of running, and actually that is one of the things I have Nina Guerrera do a lot of running and stuff like that. But the thing is, especially on the department, again, and that's what I'm trying to emphasize, is that I would be put in a position where I had to do it, but I couldn't have done it like in a one-on-one, quote unquote, fair fight. So it's always a matter of, you know, you either have backup with you or you have tools and equipment that you use. Because if I had to just sit there and try to duke it out with a guy, it wouldn't work. As a matter of fact, back when I first was in the police academy, they had us fight with men. There were, in my academy class, there were like 90 recruits. Only 3 of us were females on the police side. They forced us to fight with male recruits. And I remember in particular, and they forced us to fight like with just like boxing rules. It's ridiculous. You know, if I could have kicked him, I would have had a better chance. But, you know, again, using those legs and hips and abs and everything, but I had to, they forced us to just like box. And I remember in particular that for 2 minutes, because they had like a 2-minute round where we had to go a couple rounds with them. And for 2 minutes, I think I punched his fist with my face for 2 minutes. And my ears were ringing all weekend. That took place on a Friday. And I am sure of it nowadays, looking back, I'm sure I was concussed. My ears were ringing all weekend long. And I had the worst headache I've ever had and everything. And I mean, it was just, yeah. So one of the things and they also made us wrestle a male recruit. Oh my gosh, that was another nightmare. It was terrible. But one thing I guess it did teach me is whether I'm up on my feet or ground fighting, because we had to do both, that I needed to quickly get myself out of the situation, because if I try to just do it with regular rules, like we had to obey the wrestling rules, if I had a fight like that, it was not going to end well for me. And as an officer, you always have to remember and keep in mind that there's always a gun on the scene. It's yours. Even if the bad guy doesn't have a gun, you do. So if he knocks you unconscious, you may as well have just handed him your gun. And now he's armed. And this is how, unfortunately, God forbid, but unfortunately, officers are killed by their own guns. Sometimes that does happen, and that's how it happens, because the officer is incapacitated, and then that's how their gun ends up in the hands of a bad person who then will take their life or take the life of other people, innocent bystanders or what have you. So that's why there's that, that thing of, you have to keep that in mind, of that you can't allow yourself to become incapacitated if you can possibly help it.
Oh my God, Isabella, thank you for this fascinating, mind-bending, mind-opening glimpse into the world of female law enforcement. This is just so cool and so crazy. Oh my God. Debbie said, flipping it over to the other end of your law enforcement career, from the physical now to the mental, how do you train yourself to be very observant and notice the details? I love that question. Yeah. Can we hear from your experience, Isabella?
Yes, it is. It's a very good question, and it starts when you're in the police academy as a basic recruit. It's called the situation that you're in. You're in either green, yellow, or red, and they tell you as a basic recruit you should never be in green mode, because in green mode you're totally relaxed. You're just going about your business and, whatever. When you're in yellow mode, that's when you're alert, you're observing everything around you, and you're thinking all the time. And when you're in red is when you're in an altercation, or you are going to the scene of an altercation and you're about to become involved. So the idea is they start drilling it into your head from a very early time that you should be in yellow at all times, unless you're in red, and that you should never be in green. They're like, if you're in green, that means you must be asleep. Otherwise, no. And it can make you, there's a term for it called hypervigilance. This can happen to officers who've been on the job a long time, and you do become hypervigilant. It's kind of a price that you have to pay, where you do start to get jumpy, and where you kind of are aware of every little noise, and you can overreact sometimes to, even when you're in a regular situation. I remember there was a time off duty, and I was with one of my friends who was also on the job, and we were just hanging out in a store, and a kid's balloon popped, and he was reaching for his gun, but he was off duty and did not have his gun on him, but his hand was reflexively reaching. He heard a pow, and he was reflexively reaching, and his hand went to that area of his hip. And I realized it's kind of, I've heard it referred to as kind of like a soft PTSD or something, but it happens because of hypervigilance, because you're constantly expecting. And one of our instructors told us that basically you have to look at it like, you need to be just aware of everything that's going on around you, and you're sort of in the world but not of it, and no matter what's going on, you always have to be prepared just in case something bad happens. It's like you have to be prepared to take action at any moment. And whether you're in church or whether you're in the grocery store, that is my dog playing with a squeaky toy. I apologize in the background. But yeah, you have to be aware at all times and ready to take action, whether you're on duty or not, because you're never considered to be truly off duty. And I tell you what, after I retired from the force, after 22 years with a gun and badge, it took me years before I was able to sort of, kind of be a little more normal, for lack of a better term, but, a little more relaxed than I had been, if that makes any sense.
That makes so much sense. Both the need to be in hypervigilance mode, and then how do you unwind all of your nerves being on hyper alert, constantly scanning the horizon for danger, constantly listening, sensing, tensing, fearing, getting ready to literally fight for your life. And that is fascinating. So a follow-up question to Debbie is, how do you train yourself to be very observant? So if you when you, as having received this physical training to defend yourself, having received this mental training to observe all the details, to be in hypervigilant mode, you arrive on the crime scene. What are the first 5 things you look around and you notice? You walk us through the mind of an investigator.
Okay, now that's different as an investigator or as an officer. Which one? Because it's totally different.
Okay,
An investigator shows up like an hour after it happened, and the crime scene is safe. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Okay. So which were you?
Well, okay, so in the beginning of my career, obviously I was an officer. In the police department, it's not like in the military. You do not come in as a lieutenant and just go straight into supervision. It's not how it works. Everyone starts off as a slick sleeve, and everyone has to work patrol to begin with in the beginning of their career. Everyone works that way. So that's how you start off. And, you know, so when you show up at the scene, the first thing that you do is you know, even before you get on the scene, I got to get my light back up here. Even before you get on the scene, you're already looking for threats as you show up, especially depending on what the nature of it is, to make sure you're parking in a place that is not in the middle of the kill zone. You know, like you don't want to get out of your cruiser and there's shots flying. You know, it's like, you know, even that, you know, you already have to have your window rolled down, and you have to be listening and alert and thinking about where you're parking, and then also not where you're going to be an impediment to traffic or whatever. Then you get out and you're looking for 2 things: cover and concealment. Those are the 2 things you look for. They're different. Cover will stop a bullet. Concealment will not stop a bullet. Concealment, it means you're just making a tactical approach where you're hiding your approach. So that's 2 different things that you need to do. Sometimes you cannot get both, but you try for both if you can. Cover is best because obviously that would stop a bullet. But if you can't get it, then at least concealment. But you've got to make your approach. And then depending on the nature of the situation, you have to get other officers with you, and you make entry together. And we all train for that over and over again. We train for, and I write about this actually in a different dawn. I write about how, you know, Nina doesn't even have to think about it. She knows what the people who are going in with her are doing without looking, because we all, law enforcement around the world, we all train for this kind of thing, and then you make that thing. Now, as an investigator coming, the scene is safe, generally speaking. You know, they'll call in the detectives after the scene is stabilized, and then the detectives come in, and they have a totally different mindset. They are looking to see what the integrity of the scene is, to make sure that they understand what all the contamination is. And usually, you know, God love them, but it's the rescue personnel. they you know, they tramp all over everything, and, you know, but they have a job to do. You know, they're trying to save someone's life. If there's a life to be saved, that's what they're in there doing. And so, you know, but you have to take all that in consideration. Or other people in the public may be there. They may have found the victim first, and, you know, so you need to get a hold of all these people, all the interviews that need to be done. It's called a canvas, where you have, you know, you send officers all over the whole area to interview people about what they heard, what they saw, you know, who's been talking, that sort of thing. And those are the kind of concerns that you have as an investigator showing up, as opposed to an officer.
Oh, this is fascinating. Melissa is giving us the yikes face. Debbie wants to understand why they only allowed you to wrestle or box the men. Is that because there weren't enough women to practice on, because you were in a class of 90 and there were only 3 females?
Nope. And yes, this person is very astute and has gotten to the heart of something very sticky and ugly. Again, this is back in the 80s, when a lot of people didn't. And so the general consensus was that that we would run and hide and go and cry. And so they wanted to deliberately have us fight with men to make sure that we didn't go easy on each other. And as I still remember very clearly, before it was my time to sort of get in the ring, even though it was just a ring of people, it wasn't like an actual boxing ring, but they both like ringed all the recruits around us. Before it was my turn to get in there, I overheard the instructors, or I shouldn't say I didn't overhear. I saw the instructors whispering to the guy who they had picked. They chose a guy to be the one to fight me, and he wasn't small. He wasn't the biggest guy there, but he definitely was not small. And they were whispering to him, and I thought, oh, this can't be good. This is so not good. But I went in there anyway, and like I said, I got the snot beat out of me. And then I asked him later. I didn't ask him at the time, but like a year later, after we'd been out of the academy, I was in court. He went to a different precinct than I did. We didn't work together. And I asked him, his name was Tom. And I hadn't seen him, since the academy. I said, Tom, I've always wondered, what were the instructors whispering to you before we got in the ring together to have our little boxing match? And he goes, oh, yeah, that. Okay, yeah, I'll tell you what they said now that we're all graduated and all that. They told me to make sure that I punched you in the face as much as possible. They wanted me to specifically make sure that I hit your face and not just do like body blows or, whatever. And then they want to make sure I hit you hard. And it's very important that, they didn't want me to pull my punches or I would get in trouble. And so I thought about that, and I thought, yeah, that was definitely the culture back then, was they wanted to make sure that I did not like just curl up in a ball and cry, because they thought that women would do that. And I will tell you, it is very painful for 2 minutes to have some guy, and he was probably 5'11", close to 6 feet tall. So he outreached me. I never landed one punch. He totally outreached me. And like I said, I wasn't allowed to kick or do anything else. And, and we had no weapons, and it was toward the beginning. So we didn't have much training, and we're supposed to do boxing rules. So I couldn't just like dive on him because, we're supposed to be doing standard boxing. And actually it was funny because it was with my academy class that they ended up stopping the boxing, because the young lady who went after me, the guy ended up fracturing her nose. She had to go to the hospital because they told him the same thing. She had to go to the hospital and her nose was broken in 2 places. And so after that, they decided it was too much of a liability, and they stopped the boxing with my academy class. And I think that's a good thing they did. But I really think it was almost like, what is the word? Hazing. I think it was like hazing. It was a form of hazing for women, to do that. So that's just my story.
Yikes. I mean, the craziest thing is that it shouldn't, is that you had to adhere to these boxing rules when in an alley, in a street fight, in the real world, you really shouldn't have to. If someone's threatening your life, that seems almost the craziest part.
Oh, hold on.
Okay, no worries.
I don't know why, but I'm not hearing you now. Hold on. Oh.
Okay, we hear you. We hear you perfectly.
Oh, good. You can hear. Okay. You know what? This is awful, but because I'm going to be way too close to the camera. But
no, you're totally fine. No, you're doing great. And I'm sorry, Debbie's following up. She's saying, what I meant is, why weren't you allowed to use other fighting techniques aside from boxing and wrestling? Sorry, Debbie, I misunderstood that. Isabella, she wants to know why you had to adhere to the boxing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, you can't hear me. Okay. Can you hear me?
I'm trying to. I thought I put in my Bluetooth to see if that helped.
Oh, okay.
Okay, wait a second. Let me see if there's one other thing I can try.
Here, I'll pop it up on the screen.
Yeah, I'm trying to do it. Nope. Oh, no. This is so unfortunate. Okay, I've got you up on the screen.
Okay, Debbie, can you see the question?
I don't know what to do about this volume.
Oh no. Okay, can you hear me now? Hold tight, everybody. These are the technical issues of the pandemic. Meanwhile, while Isabella's figuring that out, I just want to remind everyone. She'll be back. Don't worry. This is what we have. This happened a few times before as well. She'll sit tight. She's coming right back. I want to remind everyone, I'm giving away 5 copies of Isabella's book over in my Facebook group. So if you want to continue the conversation, if you love mysteries and thrillers, and clearly you do because you're here with us tonight, be sure to join my free Facebook group and be entered to win 5 copies of Isabella's brand new book, out tomorrow, A Different Dawn. Again, the second in the Nina Guerrera series. I'm giving away 5 copies. I just popped the link in the comments. Whatever channel you're watching on, you should be able to see it. Here's Isabella.
I can hear you again.
Yay!
Yay!
That was
I
perfect.
can hear you.
Just to remind everyone, I'm giving 5 copies of your book away, so come join my Facebook group. Okay, Debbie is clarifying that I misunderstood her. I'm so sorry. She's saying what she meant was, why weren't you allowed to use other fighting techniques aside from boxing and wrestling?
Well, I think it was what I was explaining, which is they just wanted to see if we would basically be able to tolerate just having the snot beaten out of us, knowing that we really couldn't defend ourselves properly.
Because it's not a fair fight if you're
It's not.
if you're
No.
5'1" and 100 pounds, as Nina Guerrera, Warrior Girl, is. Okay. Oh my gosh. Okay, let me just see to make sure I didn't miss anything. Okay, we are over our time, but Isabella is being so generous, and we have just a few more questions.
Yeah, that's fine.
Let's know if you've ever worked with a cold case team, Isabella.
Well, okay. So when again in my last command as commander of special investigations and forensics, the guys who were working under me, some of them would work on cold cases. They were not, I was not in charge of homicide, but it was more the guy who did the forensics, and they would take care of that. So what would happen is if there was a cold case, some of my guys would be out there, hold on, turn that off, would be out there investigating the cold case, and they would do everything from fingerprint to video. And we actually had one guy who was training to be a forensic odontologist. That's a new fun word for you know what that is? That's someone who examines the teeth. It's a a dental forensic examination. So so a lot of guys, they would have different specialties, and they would work with the cold case detectives on some of these. And it was very interesting. Some of them did some of that, the reconstruction, where they would have skulls, and they would put together images of the person. First, they did it back in the olden days. They did it with clay and these little kind of knobbies they put on there with clay. And nowadays they do it using, it's all digital. So, and it's amazing how accurate it can become. And I talk about some of the technology a little bit in the cipher, with the predictive DNA offering predictive, because we do have cases where we find bodies and we can't put a name to them, and it's clear that they have died, that they have been murdered, but we don't know who they are, and that still does happen. It's getting better now with the advent of DNA and other things, but still it's not we can't always put a name to everybody, so we have to work on it that way too.
Wow, this is so freaking fascinating, Isabella. I'm riveted, and so is everyone watching. Darla is saying the cipher is now in my Kindle library. Darla, good move. You're gonna love it. Come continue, join my Facebook group. Continue the conversation.
Oh, good. The cipher's in somebody's Kindle library.
In Darla's library, yay! And now you can get a copy of A Different Dawn. Again, I'm giving away 5, or you can pre-order it. I put in the link in the comments twice, so grab it. Grab your copy. Jess is saying yes, and then after all of this wrestling and fighting, you became the boss of them all. So you had the last laugh for sure. Absolutely,
becoming the boss of them all. Okay, I do have a quick story about that. So when I first came on, when I just got to the precinct, and I was like,
wait, Isabella, your sound went out just a little bit. If you can lean a little.
You can't hear me. Hold on a second.
Now you're back. Now you're back. Okay,
you can hear me now.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So when I first showed up at the precinct, and I was fresh out of the academy, as soon as I got there, one of the senior officers just. The minute I walked in the door, he looked at me and he said, "Women have no place in law enforcement." And he turned on his heel and walked away from me. And that was my greeting. That was my first welcome to the precinct. It was my first day. And I thought, I haven't even had a chance to make this guy mad. I haven't even had a chance to fail at anything. That's the way he feels, and he's making sure he lets me know. And so what ended up happening was, at the end of my career, more than 20 years later, when I became the commander of special investigations and forensics, he ended up being, that same officer was one of the ones who worked under me, but it was several layers, because he was never promoted at all. I was a captain, but he had never been promoted. So what happened is people have asked me when I told the story, they're like, hey, did you get him back or anything like that? And the answer is no, I really didn't. First of all, because he was many ranks below, but also someone like him just showing up for work and knowing that I was in the corner office in charge was punishment enough for someone with that attitude. I didn't even need to do anything other than exist. And that was all I needed to do.
Oh my God, this is the best story ever. Sherry is saying, wow, Sherry is all of us. Oh my God. Isabella, this is so cool. And yes, you being in the corner office, you being the captain, you retiring as the head of forensics and special investigations was the best revenge of all. Oh my God. Well,
right.
We are well over our time, but this has been such a fascinating, fabulous, illuminating, heart-opening, mind-opening, learning educational night. I want to thank you so much. I want to remind everyone this book is out tomorrow. We get to talk to her tonight because I like to give you the inside scoop before the book even comes out. So pre-order your copy right now. Join my Facebook group. Enter to win one of 5 free copies. I'm giving them away. We're about women supporting women, authors helping authors. That's what we're all about here. Sherry saying, thank you for sharing your time with us. Yes, thank you for sharing your time. Thank you for sharing your knowledge. We're getting so many hearts up on Facebook. Isabella, when that third, Bonnie saying, thank you for an outstanding night. Bonnie, thank you for all your questions. Thank you for your presence. Isabella, when your third Nina Guerrero book, The Warrior Girl, comes out, you got to come back and talk to us the night before it comes out because we love you. We're cheering for you, and we can't wait to have you back right here on Mystery and Thriller Mavens.
Thank you. I would love that. It comes out next July, so here we go.
I'm booking you now, lady. Thank you so much. Everybody have a great night. I will see you next Monday for Mystery Mondays. Thanks, Deb, because Mondays can be murder. Have a great night, everybody.